Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu, guys. Greetings to one and all. Welcome back to another episode of the Ali Ayn podcast. I'm your host, Ali Adnaan Raza, joined by my wonderful co-host,
Ali Hamid Zaidi.
also known as Ali, not Adnaan Raza. You know what? We're going to keep that. It sounds good. Today, we have a very special guest with us. And, even though we've gotten to know each other over the past few months and we formed a team together, we've planned a startup together, we've done a bunch of stuff, I still feel greatly humbled when I'm in her presence because she's just that inspiring. Ladies and gents, Simran Chowdhry, introduce yourself.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be talking to the both of you. And you mentioned, we've had the pleasure of working together, short as it might have been. It was still fun and it was memorable. And I'm honored to be here. I'm excited to talk to the both of you.
Amazing. So Simran, I've always wanted to get to know you better beyond just, your work, your proficiency when it comes to startups. And I'm sure a lot of people who have come across you, who you've met, share the same sentiments. So I just wanted to ask you, tell us a little bit about yourself, as in your background. Where did you grow up? When did you come to Dubai, AUS? What was it like? So growing up, obviously, there's a bunch of stuff that a person tends to experience in their childhood that defines and shapes the way they are. You strike me as a very bold, a very, in a positive sense, a very positively defiant individual who takes zero shits from anywhere. For the plainness and simplicity of language. So tell us a little bit about yourself. Where did you grow up and how did you end up where you are?
Start from the bottom and just go to the top. That's basically it.
So I think that would probably take too long. So I think in the compressed version
sure.
Would be that I was born in New Delhi in India. And after that we were, I think I was there till class 3. And after that, we moved to Saudi Arabia, where I did a little bit I was there for about 4 or 5 years. After that, my significant portion of school and high school and everything was in Kuwait. I joined, we were in Kuwait. I think I joined school here around year 7. And then after I was done with school, it was time for university. And it just so happened that during that period, my parents were moving to the UAE. And I was like, okay, I'm not so sure what I want to do. I've thought about, universities in Canada and the US. And I was also considering universities in the UAE. And at that time, quite frankly, I didn't know, that I would find entrepreneurship or I was even interested in entrepreneurship. I was just like, okay, I still haven't figured it out. What's the best option? And one of my friends actually had applied to AUS and she was raving about how good AUS's school was. So I said, okay, why not? Let's just put in an application in AUS and then see what happens. And that's pretty much the story.
That's been a good decision for a couple of individuals, myself included. So I wanted to apply to a bunch of places, but to be, blatantly honest with you, when you're doing the IB, shit happens. If you haven't been spending the first 3 months to the best of your ability, the so-called free months in the IB, or even the first year, to be honest, then what it does is it significantly impacts not just your academic performance, but it kind of sort of tanks your self-esteem because there's a lot going on. And so, be as it may, I did my absolute best, got a above average final grade, but I wasn't feeling it. I was like, what? I think there's a little bit of growth still to happen. I spoke to my parents and I said, what, let's apply to AUS. And I'm glad I was welcomed into AUS with open arms. I even got a little bit of a scholarship, which I immediately lost. And we live, we learn. We live, we learn. It's great. But you mentioned something about having moved here for year 7, and then around the time you applied to AUS, your parents were moving to the UAE. Does that mean you spent 5 odd years living here by yourself?
No, so for the first 2 years, my parents were still in the UAE, after which they went back to Kuwait. So for the first 2 years of university, I was staying home, and it was also, I think it was a humbling experience because I spent like an hour and a half up and down the metro and the bus going between Dubai and Sharjah. And I think, started to value my time.
The pain of public
I
transport.
mean, absolutely, yes and no. I mean, in the beginning, it felt a bit, oh my God, and whatever.
Accent.
But to be honest, I started liking it a lot.
Yeah.
And it was just.
Same for me. Yeah, it's like just getting used to it. It takes me like about 2.5 hours just to get to my house from my college by bus. So yeah, it is like a lot.
Yeah, but I think the journey is just so nice. Like for me, it was more about, I think, half an hour between uni and Rashidiyah, and then from Rashidiyah it was about like 45 to 50 minutes on the metro. And to be honest, I loved it. Like there were days where I could literally just, in the metro, Dubai Metro, you have that area which is just like the glass screen looking at the track and it's moving. And I loved it. I just loved I could literally stand there for like the entire ride.
It's kind of sad because you used to do this, Ali Hamid. You used to do this. Meanwhile, Dubai Silicon Oasis Nibas, 2 hours one way, 2 hours the other way. Oh my God, yo!
Oh yeah, I used to love it.
Commuting is like the shit with me because, it takes me about an hour to get to AUS. And then coming back, because, the stops aren't the same, it takes me about 2 hours because, there's another stop with the AUS bus. And then obviously there's the metro, etc. So, yeah, the thrill of growing up in this country, I think we've all experienced it at one point. And yeah, I do admit, at one point, I just became so used to it, I started to enjoy it. I kind of like being in moving vehicles. I like the experience of moving forward. Tell us a little bit. Tell us a little bit about
He just had to.
I did. I'm sorry.
I know you did.
You signed up for this.
Point taken. Yeah.
You did.
So, and to be fair, we have to give it to him. It was a good bridge.
It was a really good bridge. Absolutely. Do what I really like is with some of these YouTubers, there's this really nice YouTubers that makes videos on true crime and conspiracies. His name is Kento Bento. And often for some of his videos, he gets sponsors. And then someone asked him, like, you get so many different kinds of sponsors. How do you always manage to make the topic that you're speaking to related to what the sponsor is? Like, the way he segues into the sponsorship is so smooth. So he's like, when I'm writing the script, I literally discuss with the company that this is when you guys are going to come in. This is how I'm going to do it. So, that smooth, seamless transition, that's something that I want to like incorporate in my speech as well. I think it's really cool.
Yeah.
As we segue into the next topic, tell me a little bit about your journey at AUS. I've spoken very little to you about this, but I think, you've had your ups and downs, then you discovered a startup and everything exploded all at once. Tell us a little bit about your journey at AUS. You can be as detailed as you like.
So I think for me, AUS was where I discovered my passion for entrepreneurship. So AUS started to mean a lot to me, of course. And the fact that AUS gave me the opportunities that it did to explore entrepreneurship the way that it did. I'm thankful to be able to go to university there and now say that I'm a proud alumni of the American University of Sharjah. So going back to, I think, fall of 2015, so take it a little bit actually further back than that. I was always the kid in school that just sort of participated in whatever was going on. In school, it was mostly focused on sports. And so, when I came to uni and there was competitions here and there, for me, it was just sort of intuitive to take part or to go say, okay, why not just apply? I never felt uneasy or uncomfortable doing that. It was just sort of natural to me. And so that's sort of how it started with the Holt Prize in 2015. And that's when I learned about social entrepreneurship. And being new on campus, I obviously did not know enough students to say that, okay, we're just gonna, let's all of us just get into a team and you know start competing together or something. So it just so happened that it was actually on the bus, the AUS bus from university to Rashidiyah, while I was talking to a friend about the competition. And someone, like, there was this one guy, he was just sitting in the bus and he just turned around to me. He's like, oh, so I heard you talking about, the health prize and everything. I have a team of 3 people. Would you like to join? And I don't know any of these people. They were, they were sophomores. They were, I think one even was a junior, if I'm not mistaken, or at least they were sophomores at the time. I was a freshman, and I said, sure, why not? Let's just see where this goes. And that's how then the team was, put together. We started meeting in the library, and after that, we competed on campus. We won then on campus, and then competed regionally. And this was all just in my first semester of university. So that was obviously intimidating because you go to, like, Hult Prize regionals, and then there's like MBA students there and like seniors there who are like pulling out their business cards and saying that, here, this is how you can get in touch with us. And I'm just like, okay, so I'm still a freshman. Maybe we can connect on Facebook or like Instagram, or, I wasn't sure how to, obviously, I had email, and I suppose that was like the best way to say that, okay, I'm happy to share my email with you or whatever. But it was definitely an intimidating environment, but it was fantastic. Like, the experience all in all really taught me, not only that I liked entrepreneurship, that I liked social entrepreneurship. And it was around the same period that then Shira had opened on campus. And we were then, guided by the student, it's student leadership, or OSA, which is the student services in AUS. And they said, okay, why don't you go to, Shira and get some feedback for like your regionals and all that kind of stuff. And that's how I got introduced to
Well,
Shira.
you basically saved me from asking about the Hult Prize anyway. That was actually my next
I'm
question.
so sorry. I apologize, but it was
No.
it's
No,
just
that's
sort
okay.
of like how it started for me in
How it
AUS.
played out.
Like, I can't exactly, and it just so happened that after that it was just all about startup for me.
So yeah,
And it was yeah.
yeah, coming to the startups. So there's Bluefin, then there's a lot more, right? Apart from Bluefin.
So I mean, there was a lot more before Bluefin also. There was,
Please divulge,
and
divulge.
hopefully there.
We wanna know the whole story. So could continue where you were. Honestly, we want to know like exactly how it happened. I'm genuinely like thrilled to be here because I wanted to know this
I'll be
stuff for a
honest with
while.
you. After the Health Prize, the team broke up because obviously, you start working with people you don't know, and then you have to now work in an environment which is competitive, and there's conflict and everything. So the team broke up after the regional competition. I think it was during this period, I sort of like took things very lightly. I wasn't very like, okay, let me just jump head on. I was still sort of learning. It was baby steps. So yes, I knew some that, okay, I was like, oh, maybe so the idea that we worked on for Halt Prize was basically like what Uber is working on now, which is called Uber Works. And that's sort of what we had pitched. And it was after that that I had just sort of taken things lightly. I was still exploring. I was still learning a little bit more. Then I got a job as a research assistant on campus for family business with Professor Rodrigo Basco. And that was also fantastic. I was still learning a lot more about just work ethic. And, I started exploring different problems, different things around me. And then after that, I had taken, in the meantime, 2-3 startups, very, very seriously. I was working on a food waste startup at one point to reduce the problem of food waste. I was working on a crowdfunding platform, which is essentially going to be like the Kickstarter for the UAE or the local region. Then I also dabbled a little bit in fintech before, I got to Bluefin. And then Bluefin just sort of stuck longer
Wait,
than
so
the rest.
what's fintech?
So fintech is financial technology
Yeah.
in terms of the industry. But the specific idea that I was working on at that time was very similar to what Acorn does in the US. And it was more just like problems that I was facing on a daily basis that, okay, as a student, I was doing, a job on campus. I was making a little bit of money, but I still wasn't able to save anything. And just understanding that about myself, I thought, okay, maybe there would be a smarter way to do this. So the idea was essentially that anytime that you go to Starbucks, you go to Mini Mart or whatever, you're spending a little bit of money. Acorn would essentially just round up whatever you're spending and essentially take that change and put it in like a piggy bank for you. So it was like a digital way to save towards, like you could put in a goal and say that, okay, I'm saving towards, let's say, a trip, or you could, also just save this bundle, which can then further be invested. And so this was sort of like the idea that I was working on at that time. And I went through a couple programs. I think I went through the ideation program at Shira. And yeah, that's just how I learned more about entrepreneurship and sort of what led me to eventually Bluefin.
Wait, you've met GaryVee.
I
Yeah,
did
I've
tell him
met
about that.
GaryVee.
I did tell him about that. Do you want to maybe tell us a little bit about that experience, how it played out? Like, how did it happen? The thing is, right, it sits in the back of your mind, and you want to wait for the right time to ask it,
Yeah.
but then you ask it. So, like, how did it
Yeah.
happen?
How did that happen?
Um,
GaryVee, like an inspiration to
so
be there.
Shira has this conference called the Sharjah Entrepreneurship Festival.
Mhm.
And this was just around, so Bluefin was sort of ideated in that summer, and the conference was towards the end of the year. If I'm not mistaken, it was around November or December of that same year. And so we were at the conference to participate in the pitch competition for 100,000 dirhams. And GaryVee was one of these speakers who was invited for the same conference. There was a select group of people that were then chosen to sit in, so he could answer any questions that we had, and it was also accompanied by book signing, and then the books were being also sold during the conference.
I just have
And
one important question when it comes to GaryVee. Was he
okay,
cussing? Was he cussing the entire time?
no, I mean obviously there was, we are in Sharjah, and so he was aware of that. I think he, to be honest with you, the energy still came off.
Yeah.
You didn't feel like, and to be honest, I feel like he wasn't cussing. Like I could be completely wrong because I was also just in so much awe of like everything he was saying and like
Right.
being in his presence that I'm probably, it's possible that I could be wrong about this. But as far as I remember, within the questions that I was part of and the little chat that I had with him, it was I don't remember any cussing, but honestly he didn't need it. Like it was I think it was just also intuitive,
Amazing.
just the way that he was talking and
GaryVee
talking
not
to it.
cussing. Wow, that'd be a sight to see.
Mm.
I mean, honestly,
Yeah.
I feel like he doesn't. It's one of those, like, it's indifferent. Do you know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Mm.
Like to me, if he cusses or he doesn't cuss, the
Yeah.
way, I mean, even when I asked him a question, he did not answer right away. He asked me back another question, and then so
Yeah.
I was just like, wait, I was not expecting that, and that just threw me off a little bit.
He
That's
tried
And
to
I was like,
surprise
okay,
you.
like that style. Yeah, that style
yeah,
of
that
his.
just, and it really makes you think, right? Because I think around that time, because I was just sort of starting out with Bluefin, we were like, a few months in, I was just sort of like, okay, how do I manage this? Like my heart and everything is now in Bluefin. I know I can't just drop out of university. And
Right.
I do have, a few friends that I'd like to have a social life with, or who at least seemed to be very irritated that I was no longer making that time, the way that I should have been. So I was just like, okay, I've heard this work-life balance concept.
Yeah. Yeah.
Please tell me how to achieve it, or like what to do about it. Like
Oh, that was your question?
desperation. That was that
that, yeah,
desperation.
that was my question, and
That was
I
your
think
question.
that really just
That'd
changed.
definitely be the type of question you ask GaryVee. Let's be honest.
I mean, but to be honest, like, what he said to me really changed my perception and everything. He's like, just do what you want to do. Like, it's,
Yeah.
like everyone says that you have to have this concept of work-life balance. If you right now want to, like, quit university, you don't want to go where you're going, your heart's in Bluefin, and you just want to keep working out Bluefin, then do that. Like, why is there this societal expectation that this is how your work-life balance should be? You should work from 8 to 5, and then from 5 to 8, you should chill with some people or your friends, and then go to bed by 10. And who says it has to be like that?
Yeah.
And I think that sort of also just grew my ideal of that everyone's hustle is different. Because you grow up in a like you grow up hearing that, okay, Mark Zuckerberg dropped out, and Richard Branson dropped out, and everyone dropped out. Steve Jobs dropped out.
No one talks about the failures after dropping out. That's what everyone.
No one does.
That's that's not it. I don't think the problem is the feeling after the dropping out. It's more just that, okay, maybe you can stay in college and still finish it.
Yeah.
And so at that time, I think as an entrepreneur, if you're at that moment in university, you feel like, okay, the natural thing for me to do is to drop out. Right. And I didn't want to do that. And so it was just like,
you don't want to do it. Make your own decisions. Exactly. Like Gary said, I think, the simplicity, what amazes me is the simplicity of what he says. Yeah. But then the way he says it, it makes you think. And that,
not just that, it's just, it's also just the, it really like provokes you to think about it. And when you do think about it, you're like, wait, why am I even asking myself this question when I already know the answer to it? Yeah, and why am I sort of troubling myself with it? So, it's
the same thing I faced with, I was working 3 jobs at one time. I'm working for like 2 startups, and I'm working for like an internship. And I was like, how am I going to get this done? And I'm like, and then one GaryVee video just pops up going, just do whatever the heck you want. And then here I am, I worked like 3 internship got over just 2 days ago. And then I'm still working for the 2 startups. So yeah, I mean,
that's fantastic. Yeah. I mean, look, it's your, right. It's however you want to do it, and whatever works for you, you do that. That's it. Yeah. It's your hustle. So that's why, I mean, there's several times that, if there's just someone who's working in corporate, if you want to work in corporate till 5 p.m. and then 5 to 10 build your startup, go ahead and do it.
Right.
There's no one saying that you should quit and.
I was, first of all, what you just said, it's your hustle. I want to frame that. Somewhere. That is profound. That is actually profound. See, this entire hour meeting, I just wanted to get that out of you so I could frame it.
I know exactly how he's going to frame it. I know exactly what he's going to write. I know exactly how he's going to frame this thing.
Oh my!
Pleasure talking to you guys. We can end the conversation right here now.
He knows how I quote people. What I tend to do is I tend to quote the person, and then it's the first initials, and then it goes on my WhatsApp, and then it goes on my Instagram, and then I print it out and put it. Yeah, he knows. And
then comma 2020.
Just for you, I will even design the poster.
Please, wallahi, do it. I'm not even kidding. I will be the first person to put it on my wall. We should do what KP does, what Samreen does. Samreen Khemani. I don't know if you've heard of her, Simran. Samreen Khemani is basically a Khemani. Samreen Khemani is she's a content creator, a media creator in the UAE, about 12, 13K followers. She's been grinding for a few years now. She's got a podcast. She makes regular, very funny video content. And what she typically tends to do is, if something profound or something memorable occurs with her, or to her, from my understanding, she has a wall that is all sticky notes, and she would write that thing down on a sticky note and just put it there forever.
That's sort of how my desk looks right now. And I mean, not maybe with something profound, but usually with things that I need to get done, and as long as it's something I want to remember, it's scribbled on a sticky note and stuck on the wall. I was
heavily advised to do this. I was heavily advised that if there's something that you need to do, or something strikes your mind, put it down, write it down. You'll lose it. And I've been doing that for a few years now on Todoist, my loyal faithful to-do list app. Like I've got 50 items in the inbox since like 3 years, and they've just not been done yet. I don't care. So, it's my
I
hustle.
think I think
I'm gonna
I
misquote.
mean
I'm gonna
that's
misquote you now. I'm gonna use it as an excuse to be lazy. It's my hustle, guys. I don't want to
I
do this
mean
right now.
I
I
don't do
mean that's
either. I
partly
don't do
true, to
either.
be honest. That's partly true.
Yeah.
If you're a procrastinator, I don't want to shame you, because usually you're finding just a better way of doing things ultimately. And it can go both ways. It can all, I mean, as long as you're procrastinating in a way that's still healthy and that's still helping you get to where you want to get. If your procrastination is Netflix, then that might not help as much as procrastinating by reading something that's completely different. But no, every once in every now and then you need a break too. And
Right.
so I'm not against the procrastination culture. I'm a huge procrastinator as well. I've obviously improved over time from that, because now my procrastination is, I think, very focused. But I think what I would say is that I personally need a visual. Like I try to-do list apps. I think what really like does it for me with the sticky notes is the fact that I'm visually seeing it in front of me,
And you're constantly reminded as
instead
well.
of exactly. And just so like the number of, because like you're obviously just trying to reduce the number of sticky notes that you
Right.
have on the wall, and so there's a sense of satisfaction when you can take one
Yeah.
off and just take it off.
To be
Right.
honest, yeah, the kinesthetic feeling of just taking one off Krumpnigan and chucking it in the bin, that's incomparable. Yeah,
I think
yeah, I totally
Absolutely.
get you. Hey, yo,
just
I
end up
gotta do this now.
I know I just end up doing the work eventually. It's just like I know the work
Yeah,
has
yeah.
to be done, so I just end up doing it eventually. And I'm not really worried about getting it done. I'm just more or less worried about how to get it done, like how the process is gonna be and everything. So how did that work for you, Simran? How did that work for you? Like, what's your process of working, and how did it affect your life, or how is it impacting your life in such a way?
I mean, I think I'm actually quite happy with my process of working now. And I have to thank my parents and relatives for this, because we sort of have like, and this has actually just only happened since I started, I graduated in May or June, or technically haven't graduated, however you want to put it.
Zoom
When I moved
Zoom
out
call
of dorms,
graduation.
yeah, when I moved, it was actually more like a YouTube graduation,
Yeah.
because that's the one that I considered more final. But so I moved out of dorms to go stay with my relatives, and my parents are also like this. And eventually, I came back home, and they had like this, which like there was time for breakfast, there was time for lunch, and there was time for dinner. And I like, contrary to like the way that I was living in dorms, which was like, okay, I will eat in between my work. That sort of really like set the pace for me. Just having those like set times, and waking up early, and sitting on the table, and obviously like knowing what I need to do in each chunk of the day, because it's sort of just I sort of now divided my day based on these 3 meals and say, okay, there's the first half, the second half, the third half of my day. And essentially for my fourth half, that's when I was like, okay, I don't want to work after dinner. I just want to come, chill out a little bit, read a book,
Right. Yeah.
catch up on, whatever I've missed. And that really just helped me structure it. And I'm so happy that I did. University was great. When I was on dorms, I wasn't like, I didn't lack that structure, but it was just very different, because I was like, my first thing was obviously just getting to class or getting to the office and then having breakfast, and then still figuring out when the next class was and when my next break was, to have something in the middle. And so it was more, instead of it being developed around it, it was just squeezed in wherever it could have been. So I feel really happy about the way that now I've sort of structured things. And I think that's just ideal. Like the structure works for me. So I'm happy. I mean, I was always sort of someone who worked more at night, but I've definitely become now someone who's more productive in the morning.
That's
That
wow.
quite honestly, I've been a morning person for a while now, but not to work. I'm just really energetic in the morning. But then I've realized that if I actually use that energy to get work done, it works out really well. You don't have to do like everyone else and save everything for the night hours. If morning is golden
Yeah, I mean, I
hours,
think
what
it
is it,
also
like black
depends,
hours?
right?
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
mean,
it does.
I think it's not like, I mean, I can't say that I can categorize and say, because like, there's all those questions that you sort of see on social media that, oh, are you a morning person or a night person? I don't think it's either or. I think it just depends on when you get that moment of like peace and energy, like you were saying, to just remain focused. A lot of the times in uni, for me, sometimes that would come at night. I could stay up till like 4 or 5 a.m. and just that would be like my burst of energy and when I felt the most focused to work on it. And sometimes I was just not, like you're just so interested in working on something,
Yeah.
you're just not even like you can't sleep.
Yeah,
It's just so
exactly.
much on your mind that you just want to keep working on it. And so it's not easy. I can't say that I'm someone who likes to stick to structure that much, but I have definitely enjoyed sort of waking up early in the morning and having that little bit of like a morning routine and
Right.
then sort of sitting on my table and working because it just feels like my day is longer.
I'm more of
Sometimes I'll do that first chunk of like, work and I'll feel like, oh my God, it's still only like noon. I have like the rest of the day left. Like it's such a great feeling.
Yeah, yeah.
That's quite the perspective, to be honest with you. I've never thought
Mhm.
about it that way. And yeah, I
Yeah,
totally relate. Sometimes, it's kind of like the spidey sense. Like you're just
yeah,
doing something, all at once just hits you, and it's like, shit, I really, really want to do this now. And so you just work and
Exactly.
exactly.
work
Yeah.
and work and work, and the time just keeps passing. And it doesn't even matter. Like daylight hours, nighttime hours, what's going on around you. You just create your own zone. And I
Hmm.
think
Oh,
Absolutely.
that's
yes,
probably
absolutely.
been the most relatable like work ethic type of thing for me. Like I once asked someone for advice on like, how they got such good grades and stuff. And so they sat me down for lunch and we were having lunch. And she was basically explaining to me the whole thing. She was like, okay, so I get up at this time and then I study for this many hours and then I do this and then this. I was like, I could
Yeah,
absolutely never, ever structure my day in such a disciplined fashion. But then the thing is, it works for her because that's the type of person she is. She's
yeah,
grown up with that sort of,
But honestly,
discipline.
you'll be surprised how effective blocking your time can be. And I don't mean that in the sense
yeah.
in the sense that, for example, now, with all the different things that I want to work on, if
Mhm.
I want to be effective in working on those things, I equally have to be able to devote time. And
Yeah,
yes, there are moments that, I cannot block, in advance that from this time to this time, that's what I'm going to work on. Because I don't have that switch off. Like, okay, I can't
right,
just switch off working on
right.
Bluefin and switch on working on something else.
Yeah.
But what does really help is sort of reflecting like throughout the day and be easily able to switch things out. So like if
Mhm.
in the morning, I'm just super really interested in like, a course that I'm doing online, and that's just sort of where my brain is. Then I will push something if I can. So after I'm done with it, because I know that even if I was to work on something else right
Right,
now,
right.
like I just wouldn't be as effective and as productive in it. So I think what
Mhm.
you could try maybe is like blocking the time is very effective. Just trying to do it, on the same day and make sure that
Right.
it's easy enough for you to switch around with so that you still have that, okay, this is what I'm going to do, but at the same time, it's slightly flexible if you want to keep working on one particular thing.
Mhm. Yeah, and like now it just reminded me I have to record and edit something too.
I totally get what you're saying. It's basically
Yeah,
like this is what I've been suggested as well. It's like having a list of priorities and like maybe not committing one time to do one thing, but then having chunks of time. So like if this is your work zone and this is your chill zone on your calendar, right? If you're in the work zone, then try to do whatever it is that your mind is interested in the
yeah,
work category. And then
yeah.
obviously, you can chill and stuff, and then you can move on to something else and then something else. Um, but yeah, basically, that's why having sticky notes and having a to-do list really helps. But yeah, this is
Mhm.
really insightful to our audience listening. If you've never been the type of person to, plan out your day minute by minute, as some people tend to do, with like really lengthy planners and very distinct, um, almost appointment like structuring, then at least what you can do is make a list of things that you have, and then depending on what you feel like doing or what your most active hours are, you can sort of at least start checking
Yeah,
things off. Not only
yeah.
is that 100 times easier than making a planner, I mean,
Mhm.
it just helps you keep your head in the game. It stops you from getting carried away. Because my
Yeah,
granddad always used to say, bless him, like he knows me so well. In some regards, he knows me, a scary good amount, even slightly better than my parents.
it is.
And
It is
he
very
just,
scary how
the
well he
thing
knows.
is right. The thing is right. It's not something you talk to him about. It's
Yeah,
something that he picks up on from his experiences on the planet. Bless him. He's well, of course. He's well. He's in India.
he's yeah.
Literally my favorite person on earth. So I don't know what it was that hinted this to him. I don't know how, who, what. My parents didn't say anything. My siblings didn't say anything. One day he just comes up to me and he's like, "You know what, mate? I want to tell you two things." And I was like, "Go ahead, Nana. What is it?" He said, "The first thing is always remember this. A person who wakes up in the morning without something of a plan in mind is wasting their day." Well, I was like, "What do you mean?" He said, "When you get up in the morning, you should know that today I want to accomplish these things, or today I want to work on these things. You should at least have an idea so you can be directed. If you're working aimlessly through life, like you get up in the morning, you're like, okay, I may do this and I may do that, and like if I feel like it, I'll do some work.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I won't do anything." He says that is just going to make you really inefficient. So he said, easiest thing to do is just write down whatever you want to do, and then whenever you feel like doing it, do it. That's what he told me. And he said the second thing is, when you start to do this, one thing that you'll be working on, that you need to work on, is your decision making power. And then I thought about it, and then I was like, shit, I never really thought about the fact that I am terrible at making decisions. And I don't even know what it is that led him to believe this and led him to advise me on decision making power specifically. But then he was so right. Like a lot of different things in my life personally can be put down to whether or not I was able to make a decision at the
Hmm.
right time. Not even the right decision, because the right decision is subjective. When I joined AUS, I thought it was the wrong decision. I thought my life was finished. And now I realize I couldn't have made a righter decision at that moment in time. Then coming here, meeting Simran, getting into startup, etc., I could not possibly have been in a place that makes me happier. So yeah,
Yeah,
thank you for that. But then
yeah,
he's like,
No, I think
it's about making a decision, and that comes with when you basically know what you want out of life and what you want out of your day. You become
definitely.
better and better at making a decision. You should not be extremely indecisive of a person, because what that does is, and I've realized, is it turns you into a doormat where anyone tells you anything, you're willing to like just abandon whatever you're doing and then just get onto it. But no, you should be able to stand your ground and make your own decisions. So
Me
yeah,
5 years.
very very important. Yo, me what was 5 years, me like a year and a half ago, what into 5 years you flexing your growth and mental and personal development on me? Okay.
I think there's another thing we can take from this conversation. It's that nanas all over the world are the best.
Absolutely.
Because I have a very close relationship with my nana as well, and
Aww.
it's the same thing. It's really like I can't say that there's a person who knows me better than my nana does.
Yeah.
And I 100% agree with everything that your nana said. Like I spend a good chunk of my day in the morning looking over what needs to be done, or at least sometimes even the night before. So for me, it just depends on mood, right? Like again, like I can't say that okay, every morning I'm going to do this. There are times that I have literally just rolled out of bed, gone ready, and like opened the laptop to get on a call. So it's very much a mood thing. But yes, either the night before or the morning after, at some point I will look at my to-do list and I have a mental sort of thing that okay, priority wise, this is what I need to work on today, and this is what I can sort of push till later. And I think the best way to sort of like prioritize that is to ask yourself what's going to have the most impact. What is easier for you to do. Like if something is more complex, you need more time for it, then maybe you have to think about that a little bit more. What's easy for you to do right away, and what's going to have the most impact to your day or to whatever you're working on.
Agreed. Very insightful, and I'm sure the audience will really appreciate this particular discussion, because this is a universal, I feel, experience. A lot of people aren't fortunate enough to be like my friend, the one who advised me. I think it was Farah. Yeah, mashallah, like the way she was brought up and the scenario and everything that she grew up in, she's just always known what she wants to do, and like it's not that straightforward for a lot of people. So yeah, definitely something to take away. Coming back to startup experiences, it's obviously clear that it was the spark was a bus ride. You were discussing something, a team formed, and it sort of grew into a wildfire from there. But what I want to ask you personally is, of all the different things, why did you choose startup? Why did that appeal to you so much?
I've been asked this question a few times now. And to be honest, I don't think I have an answer because I don't know. I almost feel like it chose me
Hmm.
because there's not like, going back to school, I was not some, grade A kid who knew what was going to happen or who had some idea that, okay, that's what I want to do. Um, in school, I was mostly focused on sports, like I said. So I feel like it sort of just happened, and I was like, oh, I really like this, and the way that it was just like a light bulb moment almost, and I sort of found myself um, just interested enough to like lose like sense of other things around me. I was when it came to like working on Halt in 2015, for example. I just found myself so interested and engrossed in it that I didn't even realize that until after regionals, I had not even been on Netflix. Like it was only after that I realized that all this time I was just so focused and so interested in what I was doing that I didn't care about what was going on in class. I didn't care about, you know, what TV show I had to catch up on. I just felt so at peace while I was doing the work I was doing. And I think that's sort of when that realization hit me after I was reflecting on my experience. And I was actually just sharing this with like a friend of mine who then pinpointed it out. And I was like, oh, like, okay, that's interesting.
I see. Um, it's what it's crazy how much I can relate because sometimes my dad would ask me, he's like, "Bro, I see you. You're going one way, and then all of a sudden you're going the other way, and then all of a sudden you're swaying towards something else. Like, why can't you like pick one thing and stick to it?" I was like, it just really depends on what sparks my interest at the time. And thankfully, growing up, as I've learned a lot more about accepting that there's a certain number of hours in a day and there's only a certain number of things you can prioritize and you can work on, I've learned how to control my time in the sense that I can do um, my degree, which I love. I can do my research, which I love. And I can do my startup and my podcast, which I love. It's all about finding the time for it and, just doing it as and when it shows up. And really, I don't think a person should have to choose ever to abandon everything that they're interested in because they're focused on just
I mean,
one
yeah, for
primary
sure.
thing.
I think the one thing that you and I can probably really relate to on that front is that we're consistently changing. Like for us, the only sort of consistent thing is growth, whether it's in one particular thing or in multiple like things at the same time. And so whatever sort of like says that okay today like this is and so this is what happens, right? Like if you and at least in startup, right, you see a problem, you're thinking so much about it that you want to solve it, and then once you're done solving it, you're like, okay, now I can sort of move on to the next thing. But what really sort of I think keeps me going with what kept me going with Bluefin and what still is keeping me going with Bluefin is that the beautiful thing about startup is that you're just thrown with new problems every single day. Like in the beginning it's okay, how do I solve that problem, and after that it's like, okay, how do I grow this now and how do I get this out to more people, and so you're constantly in that constantly changing, you're constantly growing, and so I think having that growth mindset is what really sets us apart.
Yeah.
Absolutely. No, the growth mindset, it comes up a lot in conversation with almost every inspiring person that I know. They're
Hmm.
always telling me to, look at the way forward. Everything that I do, look at how it's changing my life for the better. I read this quote the other day, and like to this day, it resonates with me every single day. I think my dad sent it to me. It was, no amount of guilt can change the past, and no amount of anxiety can change the future. So I think in everything that you do in the present moment, look at how it can grow you as a person. You know, whether it be the
Absolutely.
way forward, whether it be the way forward with our degrees, whether it be the way forward with this podcast, or with, any number of interests I may have. I think it's always good to make the most of it in the present moment. The
Yeah.
थ्री इडियट्स में था वो, मुर्गी क्या जाने अंडे का क्या होगा, लाइफ बनेगी या तवे पे फ्राई होगा. So there's no point to, you know overexerting and overthink. There really isn't. There really isn't any point to overthinking
Absolutely.
any individual activity that you're taking part in. You're there because you want to be there, first of all. If you're
Yeah.
there against someone else's will, against your will, you have an excuse. But if you're there because you want to be there, then you best not be making any weird excuses or worrying too much about where it's going to go. That you're there because you thought that you're going to gain something from this, and so every bit of the present moment should be spent gaining something from this, to the best of your ability.
I think another great. So I recently watched on Netflix, and I'm forgetting the name of the documentary now, but it was on Michael Jordan, and it was about
The last
Miami Heat,
I
The
can't
Last
remember.
Dance,
The Last Dance. There
The
we go.
Last Dance.
Oh yeah,
And
that
you
game's so
know,
popular.
absolutely, it is a fantastic documentary to watch.
I
And
still have
just
to watch it.
that inside of Michael Jordan, you have to see, because I mean, even if you talk about like Michael Jordan, his career, how he just sort of switched out of basketball to baseball, and then from baseball even came back to basketball just because someone said that, oh, you might not have the game anymore to do it. Or the same thing that, when he switched out from basketball to baseball, just saying that, okay, I'm just going to go learn a completely brand new sport and be good at it. And so I think it's very similar. I think, what really also helped me was just that mindset that came from sports, because I was always very interested and I was always playing sports, is that you're just constantly moving and you're so consistent every single day when it comes to, for example, training, or when it comes to, okay, no, I need to do things a particular way to make sure that I'm present during game time. It's a lot of it has got to do with mindset, because even if you look at, for example, like running, when you feel tired, that's like your brain telling you you're tired and you need to stop. But if you can sort of like move past that, state, and you just keep going, you can really sort of like fight out of it and still come out on top. And so I think that can be applied across, whether you're playing sports, whether you're, trying to build a startup or trying to do something else. It's the same thing.
Exactly. Yeah.
I agree with you. There are certain people out there. I remember a few people who've said almost exactly the same thing to me. It's a mindset thing. They said, with me, if I'm gonna do something, I might as well be good at it. That's such a simple thing to say, but it's so profound, because that means whatever you decide to do, you're gonna give it your 100%. Like, you're not going to let anyone tell you that, oh, it's too late to switch from baseball to basketball and from basketball to baseball. I mean, bro, Abdul Mujib switched from mechanical engineering to marketing when? Like 2-3 years later? I don't even remember, man. But he made a decision, and now his life is formidably better than it used to be, even though he used to really enjoy that, right? So anything can happen.
I mean, it worked.
It worked. Exactly.
Are we talking about the same Abdul Mujib?
Same Abdul Mujib, bro.
Okay, then that Abdul Mujib is not doing marketing, he's doing MIS.
MIS. I don't know the difference, okay? For me, SBA is SBA.
I mean, okay, but I think you can edit that part to go from engineering to business.
Yeah.
But yeah, so his major is in MIS, not marketing.
Right.
But yeah, shout out to Abdul Mujib, because I think he's definitely had a journey of his own with that, and it's you need a certain level of bravery to go, against the current and say, you know what, just because I've been doing one thing for 2 years does not mean I'm going to stick to it.
Exactly.
And if I think that's the right change, then that's the leap of faith that you take.
Yeah. Coming to like how spontaneous you can be with the different areas of your life, or have you, like, where does the spontaneity come in for you? how is there like certain things you're spontaneous about, or is everything just like, okay, I'm going to do this, then I'm going to do this, then like that? What is it for you?
I mean, I think, and my friends can probably speak more to this than I can, but it's just when someone tells me something, it's just like, okay, why not?
Yeah.
You wanna you wanna start a let's say you're a very good writer. You're writing all those different things. Why not just self-publish on Amazon? Why not? The process can't be that hard. If you're, like same thing, if you look at just both of you spontaneous, like had no idea what you were probably going to do with the mics. You spontaneously bought these mics, and then out of the mic came this wonderful podcast that I'm excited to be a part of. And so I think it's just that, like, sometimes things just fall into place, and you just
Yeah.
got to be able to float the current and say that, okay, I'm happy to be taken there.
True. Speaking about being happy to be taken there, let's talk about something that was real sad and now is very, very happy. Tell us a little bit, maybe like 5 minutes. Go into a little bit of detail about Bluefin, because Bluefin is like I would say Bluefin is really the banner. Like when I think of Simran, I think of Bluefin, right? So tell us a little bit about like Bluefin. So the start, how it started out. I heard that the team broke apart. You took it forward independently. What happened with Bluefin? What is happening with Bluefin? My apologies.
So yeah, I mean, I think every startup is a journey, right? And there's going to be ups and downs, and that's part of what makes the journey fantastic to be part of. I don't think I think if whether it's life or whether it's building a startup, if there was just the ups, then you wouldn't enjoy it at all. It wouldn't be fun. And so similarly with Bluefin, we had a lot of we made the first prototype, and ultimately I think for us, what really sort of kept the team together initially was the fact that we were all working towards the same problem. We were all very passionate about doing something about climate change, doing something about ocean pollution, and doing our part in this greater fight. And so that's what really kept us together. What kept us going. It was only I think down the road when visions just about how we wanted to take things forward start to change a little bit, and that's when the team decided to sort of break up, which is okay. We were adults, we're mature people who understand, and we were happy to it was sort of like mutually agreed upon about what's going to happen from now, and that's sort of how it went. In terms of where we are now, so with the first model that we made, which is lying in Shiraat for any AUS students who may want to see it once they're back on campus, we were able to test it. We were able to, do a POC. We signed an MOU with BIA. We tested in Dubai Canal. Everything was great. It was only like during Corona, so we had actually even opened up our pilot program where we were hoping to get more blueprints in different locations to collect more data. And it was around that period that we recognized that, with minor iterations, Bluefin can actually maximize its impact based on the location it's running it. And now whether that is just to collect plastics, or that is to collect organic waste or biomass, that would be in the form of like algae. Bluefin would easily, like with minor iterations, be able to maximize its impact during its operation. And so because Corona happened and we weren't able to then start delivering on pilots, we thought, okay, since our work is hands-on, it requires us to physically demo the product, to meet people in person, which is now no longer possible. What can we do? And the thing was, okay, whatever we were planning 5 years from now that we had, that, okay, we could probably do that eventually and work towards, we said, okay, why not just work on this now? And so we started creating initial designs. We started researching a little bit more about it. In the last 2 weeks, we got accepted to the Alliance and Plastic Waste program being run by the Plug and Play Center in Singapore. And we're excited to be moving forward with our new prototype, which is going to be a more modular version to maximize impact.
I knew that RMS and the entire discussion around our little startup idea was going to have a positive impact in some form. And I was 95% sure that you and your wonderful team were going to use that and take Bluefin forward, which is why, I'm still humbled by the fact that we've had our little discussions on how I can contribute to Bluefin. And when it comes to that, when it comes to my senior design project or something, if I can design an improvement or a module for Bluefin to be better for my senior design project, that would be absolutely fantastic, if you're open to it, of course.
Oh, absolutely. You can, I suppose you will have this recording like now publicly, you have a public declaration, that Bluefin will support you
I've reached
in
an
whatever you
electronic
need to make that happen.
hacks. I have accidentally created an informal electronic MOU, so now I can hold you legally accountable.
Well,
yes.
I don't think it's an MOU if you're not really an entity. But it's, but I will say that for sure.
Ladies and gents, that was fancy speak for it's not an MOU because you're nothing.
Okay, that's not what it was like.
No. I know exactly.
And
what
please
you mean,
understand that even if you would like to get into the technical specifics, an MOU does only stand for a memorandum of understanding. And it's not a legally binding contract.
Yeah. I know.
But regardless, regardless, like with Bluefin, obviously, you guys have been the entire RMS team has contributed a lot and supported a lot, for Bluefin building and realizing and researching what we were going to do next. And so obviously whatever, we can do to support you, that will always remain. And just as like a fellow AUS student, I would definitely say that to every other AUS student hearing this now, alumni hearing this 100%. Now, that if you ever need to start 100%. Something and I can support you in any way, please reach out. Yeah.
Startup SBA.
Startup SBA has been great. Startup SBA is also another door you can knock. And Startup SBA is a entrepreneurship chapter based on campus. 1159, if I have not forgotten my way around SBA yet, is the office number. The new president and VP are Zoha and Manaswi, and they're fantastic people to drive that. Exactly. Yeah. They're fantastic. They're the right people to be driving Startup SBA forward this coming semester. And now with Halt Prize and the new, new problem statement that's come out for that as well, they're there to support you. I'm there to support you. And whatever we can do to, empower you and help you build it, because I know what it's like being a student, getting into something like this. You're young and people, not only that you have certain doubts about what you could do in an environment where people may have more qualifications and more experience, but also just whatever doubts could be, could arise. We're here to help you tackle that and just help you, navigate through it.
I'm humbled. Absolutely appreciate it. Just briefly for the audience. So Startup SBA is a project initially spearheaded by Simran and a couple of her wonderful colleagues, as she's named. And it is a student chapter in AUS that aims, as she's described, to help budding entrepreneurs, literally kickstart their own startup ideas, at least into the ideation stage. And then another name that frequently came up during this particular wonderful episode was Shara. Shara is a more heavily established, sort of old professional startup hub, which you can basically transition from Startup SBA to Shara, and then they'll help you with things like funding, taking it into the far prototyping stage. So yeah, Shara and Startup SBA are both entities within AUS, and another reason why all of you should join AUS and graduate from there, like Simran. I have done so much free PR, they better pay me. Anyway, continue.
I am not a AUS student, so this is all new to me too. So
I'm glad I clarified. Go ahead, Ali Hamid.
Okay, so when it comes to this whole startup thing and everything, now there's going to be a lot of people who are listening to this and going, okay, how can I do my own thing? How is everything going to, how to start off, how to build up the company, how to basically build on the idea that you have. So what is your advice to them about just that whole aspect of the
I think
journey?
it's a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful thing to close on. What is your advice to all these budding entrepreneurs? Because I've met some incredibly intelligent individuals who I see so much potential in them. And I just wish, like, man, if they had a mentor like Simran or Manaswi or Professor Ali Khawaja, man, these guys would be way, way, way beyond anything I could imagine. But please let us know. And by the way, they've both been invited. They're going to be on the show soon, inshallah. Continue.
Yes.
I think I just have two words, and that's going to be just start. You have to take that step forward, and once you get going, you'll just be so far into it that it's not going to feel as intimidating anymore, and you're just going to find your way out. That's it. Whether it's going onto LinkedIn and finding someone for you to mentor, for you to talk to, just send the message. It's as simple as that. Whether you want to talk to me, you want to talk to someone at Startup SBA like Manaswi or Zoha, whether you want to talk to Professor Ali Khawaja, send an email. Drop a text. Just take that one step. Whether it's research, whether it's figuring out licensing, figuring out how to validate your idea, you just got to take that one step. Either spend 5 minutes of research, because I know it can be intimidating. You have that end goal in your head, but you just don't know where to start. You don't know how to break it down, and that's why we're here to help you. And that's why you just gotta break it down. If it still feels too big and it still feels too messy for you to go with, just start somewhere. There is no right or wrong place to start. Pick one place, start there, and that's it.
Absolutely. And guys, this public service announcement here, all very nice, very, very open people. If you've got any startup ideas that you're in very, very, tadpole, or even I would say, eggcell stage of, and you just want to talk to someone about it, my DMs are always, always, always open. I am so enthusiastic about hearing about new ideas and just meeting new people in general, which is again why this podcast happened. If you guys want to talk about an idea or something you might have, you can DM the page. You can DM me. I can put you in touch with, depending on what's most appropriate, I can put you in touch with Professor Ali and give you his email. I can put you in touch with Simran. I can really, really, at least give you the push to move forward. I mean, just a couple of days ago, we were having this, yesterday, in fact, and, we can close on this. We were having a elevator pitch competition. And well, I would say Simran is the queen of elevator pitching. So maybe we can have another episode where we talk about pitching training, all of these different things, because I know you have so much more to offer. We'll have you back on, inshallah, one day. But yeah, elevator pitching, and I met a candidate at the time, very promising idea, very inspired individual. And I gave her my WhatsApp number. We discussed her idea at length, and she's feeling really good. She's feeling really confident. She'll be reaching out to Professor Ali soon to take it forward. So absolutely, guys, if anyone's got an idea or a startup that they're thinking of starting, just reach out. Okay, I will make sure that you are in the best hands possible. And
I promise that it gets less intimidating once you start. Once you get going, I'm not saying that the ride's easy, but I'm definitely going to say that the ride's worth it. And if you're doing what you love, you won't even realize it.
That's true. That's true. I frequently bring this up, but Sushant Singh Rajput, in one of his last speeches, I think this is the most beautiful way to end it, said that when you're doing something that you love and when you're doing something that you're really passionate about, your focus, your attention, your hard work, your conciseness, your precision, all of these things are not things you need to think about. They're a byproduct of you working on that particular thing. And I think that's beautiful. Thank you so much for coming on the show, Simran.
Absolutely. And I think there was...
Go ahead.
Thank you for having me. No, it's okay. I'm sorry. No, but it's just because, you reminded me of something Steve Jobs said. And Steve Jobs said that, you have to be irrational if you want to make it in startup, because you will have moments where the rational decision is going to be to stop and to not take things forward. But you have to have that. You have to have that slight level of rationality to keep it going, and that's essentially what, and how passion can derive and really change the world. Whether it's through innovation, in
you are
hard
not
tech, or
you are not an electron. You are not an electrical signal. Sometimes the path of least resistance is not the way to go. Sometimes you have to look
exactly.
at a brighter path. And with that, thank you so much for coming on the show, Simran. It's been an absolute honor to have
Thank you.
you.
Yep.
From myself, your host Ali Adnaan Raza, and from my lovely co-host.
Not Adnaan Raza, also known
It
as
was
Ali.
Also known as Ali
it was a
Hamid
pleasure
Zaidi.
talking to both you, Ali's.
Thank you. Thank you.
It was absolutely fantastic.
We've learned so much.
I
so
wish you
thank so
both
much.
very good luck with whatever you guys are doing. It's an inspiring discussion, and I hope everyone that's listening is going to follow you guys and like, comment, and subscribe, and whatever else you need them to do.
Absolutely. All plugging will occur in due time. That's it, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for tuning in. Join us in another 2 weeks for our next episode with a guest that I'm sure you're all going to be excited to hear from.
Yes.
It's been your hosts, Ali Adnaan Raza and Ali Hamid Zaidi at the Aliain Podcast, signing off. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.